to this week's episode of Soft Signal. My name is Varun and I'm joined by Aditya.
Hey, welcome to yet another episode of
And
Soft.
this week we're going to talk about the recently concluded IPL auction 2022, which was been looked forward to for a long time. It's the possibly the last mega auction with the two new teams that have come in, Lucknow Super Giants and Gujarat Titans representing Ahmedabad. So there was a need for this auction, and there was a lot of talk about who would go where, how the different teams would shape up. And auctions are always exciting, right?
Auctions are always fun, especially the mega auction, where it's like the teams are building from scratch almost. You've got tons of players in the list, and also it's an opportunity for teams that have not had the strongest squad to rebuild. So it's always interesting and fun to see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think this time all the teams, existing eight teams were allowed to retain up to four players, and then all the two new teams were also allowed to buy. I think it was three or four. I'm not sure exactly the number, but we had so each team had about at least three players in their on their team already, but then they of course everything else was up to um, was open for auction. And so uh, Ishan Kishan, not surprisingly, who was released by the Mumbai Indians, was actually brought back by them, and he was the most expensive player in the auction. Um, Great value, of course, Indian player, wicket keeper, explosive batsman. Yeah, makes complete sense. In second place, we had Deepak Chahar, who also was bought back by Chennai Super Kings for 14 crores. And again, Indian fast bowler. Um, Again, definitely someone in demand. Then we had Shreyas Iyer, who actually was released by Delhi, or he asked them to release him by Delhi Capitals. He was picked up by Kolkata Knight Riders, and I believe he's now going to be the captain as well. And then the rounding of the top five, we had Liam Livingston, the only overseas player in this top five, bought by Punjab Kings, and our favorite cricketer, Shardul Thakur, also known as Shardulkar, who was bought for just under 11 crores by Delhi Capitals. So, initial thoughts, reactions to these five, and yeah, feel free to talk about any other aspect as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of in a way it's expected. Of course, always difficult to predict exactly how much amount of money will be spent on each player. But I think overall it was pretty expected. The younger Indian players who've just broken into the national team um, were going to be big buys. Um, didn't ex- I honestly didn't expect Ishan Kishan to become the highest paid player or the highest paid player indeed during this auction. I thought it would be Shreyas Iyer, simply because he's an awesome player. He's cemented his place in the India team, and also because he would have been the kind of captain a lot of teams were looking for. So uh, in that sense, I was surprised that Ishan Kishan became the highest paid player. But makes sense, as you said, explosive batsman, wicket keeper, good player, etc., etc. Uh, good payday even for Deepak Chahar at 14 CR, which kind of brings me to the fact that a lot of quick bowlers, got picked up for pretty decent sums this time round. Doesn't usually happen in the IPL. You usually see all rounders and batsmen go for large sums, but this time there was Deepak Chahar, there was Avesh Khan as well at 10 CR. There was Timal Mills. I think he also went for close to 10, if I'm not mistaken. There were quite a few fast bowlers, who got picked up for good sums of money, and that was sort of refreshing to see. I think teams are looking for bowlers who can bowl fast, who have a good Yorker and can bowl at the death. Mark Wood as well, 8 CR, I think it was. Um, for Mark Wood. So I think that was one of the trends that stood out in the auction, and it was a new trend. It was not something that we had seen in the past auctions. So that was quite encouraging for me. It tells us that if you can bowl a good Yorker at pace, you're going to be hot property in T20 cricket as well.
Yeah, for sure. And a few, I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, a few interesting buys as well with Rajasthan Royals buying Ashwin, which means that Ashwin and Butler will now be playing in the same team. And I believe the Lucknow team bought Krunal Pandya and Deepak Huda, who had a fight in Ranji Trophy a couple of years ago. So it seems like I don't know if it's just like players will just forget their past for a big payday. If there's anything that's I wonder if teams even consider these things before buying players. Like they should probably have some kind of consideration for these things also. I remember in the
Yeah.
past, sorry, just to very quickly, I remember even Andrew Simon and Harbhajan Singh played for Mumbai once before.
Well, Andrew Simons and Harbhajan Singh played for Mumbai. Ricky Ponting was the captain at that time. Sachin was in the same squad. We just missed Adam Gilchrist from that whole episode, and maybe even Hayden. But yeah, I think that's the beauty of the IPL in a sense, where you can't fathom these guys would ever play together in one team, but they do come together and play. Um, I think um, I think it's just the nature of the sport. You don't have to be best friends in order to represent the same franchise or represent any team, any sports team for that matter. So will be interesting, of course. I think I think Deepak Hooda tried his best to go as far away from Krunal Pandya as possible. Clearly, that plan didn't work out. And Josh Butler will finally be saying, "Okay, I can stray out of my crease, out of the crease without having to worry about me getting monketed anymore." So I think Josh Butler would be pretty happy to have Ashwin in the same team. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Rajasthan Royals team put out the social media team put out this cringe video where Josh Butler's like, "Oh, I'm going to stay in my crease" or something like that. So I guess it's good in the way they're addressing it. I don't know if they forced him to say it, but yeah, okay, they're all adults. They people have fights and they can make up later. Couple of course, big misses, or not big misses in the past who was surprising a bit sad that they didn't get picked. The most notable was Suresh Raina. First of all, I was expecting Chennai to buy him back because they bought back literally everyone. But even if not, I was thought another franchise could have picked him up. He's still around only 35. It's not like he's in his 40s or something. But yeah, probably the end of his career now for Suresh Raina.
Yeah, I think this is it. I mean, he's not playing international cricket. He's not going to play the IPL. I don't know if he's played Ranji Trophy or domestic cricket either. So this is probably it. Um, Also, not sure how fit he is anymore. Also, don't know how good his relations are with the CSK management anymore as well after what happened in the previous seasons of the IPL. So it was surprising either ways, but there seems to have been more. There seems to be an explanation behind it, but I don't know how accurate it is. But yeah, he then uploaded this video as well, in which he sounded quite emotional slash disappointed. But I think Suresh Raina should have continued playing, at least playing competitive cricket. I still do not understand why he decided to retire with Dhoni. I think Raina still had a few years of cricket in him.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think Suresh Raina's brand as a cricketer is not strong enough to have sustained his continuation as an IPL player after international retirement. I don't think it was strong enough, and so not surprised in a sense, just disappointed, because Suresh Raina was one of, a kind of a likable player, a kind of a likable team player, if you could call it that. Not surprised, but yeah, quite disappointed that he didn't get picked by anybody this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's he's had a great career, so it is what it is. But yeah, we'll definitely miss seeing him going forward. And then just a quick note: to which team, if you had to pick one team which you think has the best squad? Of course, there are many factors that go into a successful IPL season, but on paper, which team do you think has the best squad and which team has the worst? Why don't you go first with the best, and then I'll go with my worst, and then we can flip it around.
Yeah, so I think for me the best team is definitely Lucknow. Um, and if I look down their squad, there's some really good slash strong players slash match winners in their squad, and I'm trying to bring it up here as we speak. So they'll have KL Rahul at the top, who'll also be their captain. They have Quinton de Kock. So that's going to be the opening combination to watch out for. I think a really explosive opening combination. I still hope KL Rahul doesn't just drop anchor at the start of the innings. I think he's got much more to offer when he's more aggressive. Also in the middle, they've got the likes of Marcus Toynes, who's probably one of the few guys who can give you strong finishings as a batsman and also come back and bowl 4 overs. So I think Marcus Toynes adds a lot of value to that team in the middle. They've got the experience of Manish Pandey. There's also Jason Holder, who's now really risen in terms of an all-rounder in T20 cricket. A few years ago, he was probably not as effective in T20 cricket as he was in other formats, but now, true to his West Indian nationality, he's become really good in T20 cricket as well. And then they've got Ravi Bishnoi and Mark Wood, who will be their key bowlers. And then of course they've got the pair of Deepak Hooda and Krunal Pandya, who probably will be those sort of players who will be chipping in towards the back end of the innings, and then also with the ball. So it's quite a complete squad, I think, Lucknow. So will be interesting to see how they go. And then as far as the worst team is concerned, I think that title once again goes to Sunrisers Hyderabad. So this was the team that released all its players, came into the auction with a completely different strategy, and eventually, I don't think they've put together a very strong team. I feel this is the kind of team that will struggle to post scores consistently of above 160. I just think they are the kind of team that requires the pitch to be absolutely slow, dry, up and down, sticky, and all of those kind of things to win matches. Yeah, but I think they are probably for me at least, the weakest team in the tournament.
Yeah, I think David Warner will probably be extremely happy that he's no longer involved with that. I feel sorry for Kane Williamson being still stuck with that hot mess of a franchise. In terms of best team for me, I actually think Lucknow has the best squad. But just to talk about another team, I think RCB have not done badly. They retained Kohli, Maxwell, and Siraj. To their bowling, they added uh, Josh Hazelwood, who's a World Cup champion now, and actually is a much improved T20 bowler. They also added Siddharth Kaul, another experienced IPL player at least, and on most importantly, Vanindu Hasaranga, who's actually probably one of the best T20 spinners going around in the world today. And yeah, not forget, they brought back Hershel Patel, who was their highest wicket taker last year. And in terms of the batting, they added Faf to see might not be the best pick considering he's already in his late 30s, but they got some middle order solidity with Dinesh Karthik, and they also have Finn Allen at the tops. I think this could actually their only concern is probably who to make captain. I think it's between Maxwell and Dinesh Karthik because Kohli has said he doesn't want to be captain. Faf
Or maybe
probably not. Yeah, but maybe he's just too old. Probably they won't make him unless they go totally left field and pick someone. I actually thought if they had bought back someone like Padikkal, they could have made him the captain, but they don't have him now. So probably going to be one of these three: Maxwell, Duplessis, or Dinesh Karthik. And then the worst team for me is actually Kolkata Knight Riders because I think they got it wrong right from their retentions. They retained Venkatesh Iyer, Sunil Narayan, Andre Russell, who's again injury prone, and who was the fourth person? Oh, yeah, Varun Chakravarti, who had not really inspiring retention. They had to buy back Pat Cummins. They bought Shreyas Iyer exorbitant price. Nitish Rana they spent a lot of money on. And then it seemed like on the second day they had no money left to buy anyone major. They did buy Sam Billings and Alex Hales right at the end. So that's Alex Hales I think is a decent buy, actually a pretty strong T20 player. But other than that their squad looks really weak, especially the bowling. They like Cummins is gonna have to do a lot in their to, like shoulder the bowling on his own. And they, of course, bought Ajinkya Rahane, which is an automatic negative for any team. So I actually think Kolkata might struggle this year.
Although I think Rahane will make the starting 11 as an opener along with Venkatesh Iyer. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Rahane has this knack of getting himself into uh, places he shouldn't be, except the Indian Test team, which we will talk about right now, because the squad for the Sri Lanka Test was finally announced. We had an episode a couple of weeks ago where we talked about who the captain could be, and it's going to be Rohit Sharma, at least for this foreseeable future. He's now India's all format captain. A couple of years ago, he probably might have retired from Test cricket, and now he's a Test captain, so life really changes quick. And with Bumrah as the vice captain, not Pant, Rahul is missing as well. So, yeah, interesting, kind of predictable, but also, I'm not sure how to feel about it. I don't know how. They've also said that Rohit is the captain subject to fitness. So, like, is he gonna just like not be captain every other test match? It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's yeah, you're right. I mean, there are a lot of ifs and buts surrounding his fitness. But then, if not Rohit Sharma, then who else? I think that's the bigger question here. I don't think Rishabh Pant is ready to be captain of the Test team. KL Rahul is not a part of this squad, and to be honest, I don't think he's fully ready either. He showed that he probably showed that he's still work in progress in the series in South Africa, where he did captain India in one test match. So I think just by virtue of those two not being ready, I think it was, if not Rohit Sharma, then who? And then I think let's state the obvious here, but Rohit Sharma's captaincy know-how and his tactical know-how as captain is probably the best in India at the moment. So I think it had to be him. Yes, understand the points on the fitness. So it'll be interesting how that happens, because clearly if Bumrah is vice captain, it means that if Rohit Sharma gets injured, Bumrah will become captain. And in India, I don't think an out and out fast bowler has ever been captain, right? I don't think it's ever happened. Kapil Dev was captain, but then he was more of an all rounder. But I've never seen an out and out fast bowler being a captain in India. But it seems to be a trend these days, and we've actually covered that in one of our episodes previously. So yeah, interesting, but I think it had to be Rohit Sharma and no one else, at least now. What I'll be really interested to see is who they start grooming as the next potential leader for India, because there are quite a few options there. There's KL, there's Rishabh Pant. Clearly, Bumrah has been talked about because he's been made vice captain here. Uh, and I do think that Shreyas Iyer will one day also be thrown in that mix. I think he is captaincy material. So when he eventually gets his opportunity in the test squad, and if he comes good, I think he will also be a part of that mix.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just looking at the squad, there are some, of course, some major um, misses. With Gara and Rahane have finally been dropped, especially Rahane after a lot of calls for them for almost a year or more now. And then Ishan Sharma, actually feel sorry for him because he's actually been a very improved bowler, but yeah, he's just getting older, and there are younger bowlers ready to take his place. And then Ridhiman Saha has also been dropped, and there's actually been a big controversy because he's now talking to the media about circumstances surrounding his drop, which we won't get into in too much detail. But do you think it's the end of the road for all of these four, or any chance for any of them to come back?
But I think it's definitely the end of the road for Saha. I think it's almost the end for Ishan Sharma. Um, I still think Rahane and Pujara still have a chance to come back. Um, Depending on how they score in the Ranji Trophy, and also depending on what the new Indian middle order does in the next few Test matches. But I think Ishan Sharma probably yes, and I say that because India is going to now start looking to build the future pool of fast bowlers. I mean, you've got to start looking beyond the likes of Bumrah, Shami, and of course Ishan Sharma. So who's there? Siraj is already well established, but they need to start getting others into the squad as well. So whether that be Deepak Chahar or Shardul Thakur is there, of course, but whether that's Deepak Chahar, Navdeep Saini, Avesh Khan, all these guys, they need a look in as well. So I think it's the end of the road for Ishan Sharma, who spent 15 years now as an Indian fast bowler. Much improved over the last few years, of course, but he still will be defined by that one spell that he bowled to Ricky Ponting many years ago in 2007. Also, I think it's the end of the road for Vridhiman Saha, uh, who I do feel unfortunate for as well, because he's a really good wicket keeper. But I think it's time everybody stood up and faced the reality that it's not good enough to just be a good wicket keeper. You need to be a very good batsman as well if you are a wicket keeper, and I think that sort of has eventually caught up on him because, well, simply put, he's not as good a batsman as Rishabh Pant, and I think India want to look at younger faces as well for the future, like KS Bharat, who they've selected in this squad.
Yeah, there are 9 Test matches left in this cycle of the World Test Championship cycle. I think we have to actually win all 9, or at least close to that, to have a chance, which includes one away test against England in England, which to complete last year's series. Yeah, these guys now, Bihari, Gill, Shreyas Iyer, they've been talked about for a long time in terms of stepping up. The time has come now. So Pujara and Rahane, now no one will criticize them anymore. Now it's time for these guys to come in. So it will definitely be interesting. The squad actually is Rohit, Mayank, Young Panchal, who's also been around the squad for a while, Virat, Shreyas Iyer, Bihari, Gill, and Pant. So that's 8 players. I think out of those 8, they'll have 6 at least. I mean, they'll have 6 out of those in the starting 11. So will be interesting to see, especially since it's against Sri Lanka. They might have some room to experiment a bit.
So, who do you think will be India's number three?
I think they'll play Bihari at 3, and I think Mayank and Priyank Panchal will miss out. I think it'll be Rohit and Gill opening, Vihari at 3, Virat at 4, Shreyas at 5, and Pant at 6.
Yeah,
And then the 5 bowlers.
and Ravindra Jadeja is also back for this series.
Yeah, and Kuldeep Yadav is also back.
And Kuldeep. So, and I also know that Ashwin has been selected, but he's still completing some fitness drills at the
Yeah,
NCAA. So, I think uh, I think Ravindra Jadeja gets into this side simply because he's an all-rounder and he adds to the batting depth. I think he'll play at 7. And then I think it'll be a toss-up between Kuldeep and Ashwin based on Ashwin's fitness. So should be
Yeah,
interesting to see how that goes. I don't see how Jayant Yadav gets into this team. I don't know. Maybe his Ranji performances have been really strong, but I just don't think he's a very good spin bowler.
yeah, it seems like a very random pick. Anyway, we'll look for. We have the T20s against Sri Lanka first, more T20s, and then finally the Test match, return to Test cricket. So it'll be interesting to see for sure. Yeah, I think that's a wrap on this week's episode. Looking forward to the Sri Lanka T20s next week, and then we will look ahead to the maybe the Sri Lanka Test series next week as well. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.